Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Hope you all got to see your moms and wish your moms a happy Mother's Day. Hope that you guys had great times. And that's right. It is Monday now, May 15th, and today is International Family Days because, of course, you can never get too much of your mom. It's also National Chocolate Chip Day. It's Bring Flowers to Someone Day because I guess they need to do something with all those flowers that were cut that didn't get sold yesterday on Mother's Day. It's also National Nylon Stocking Day because they're not just for throwing over your face and doing bank robberies, apparently. And it's also Peace Officers Memorial Day and International Kangaroo Care Awareness Day, which I have no clue what that is, but I'm willing to bet it has something to do with New York's judicial system. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can use that fancy little QR code right there in the top-hand corner of your screen. And we're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us in Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. Also, too, make sure you utilize that super chat feature because when you use that super chat, then we actually really pay attention to your comments in the comments and we will react and probably read them as well. But coming up first, we have the dope dad himself. That's right. It's Rico Lamitte, the father of Baby Yoda, the caretaker of Baby Yoda, and the, what's that word? Whatever. You know what it is. That's right. The caretaker for Baby Yoda. Coming up, it is the dope dad himself throwing out lightsabers like glow sticks. Rico Lamitte.
Thank you. Jason Beck doing his best job at trying to piss off the Star Wars fans out there by calling him Baby Yoda instead of Grogu. But it's all good, man.
Baby Yoda.
Good. It's Baby Yoda all day. So, I got to get the week started off with a little bit of down news. So we talk about debt and how it's been affecting the California cannabis industry. So one of the most pressing issues in California cannabis is debt and the inability for operators to both pay and collect on monies owed. Late last year, we covered a piece in Green Market Report with estimates of a $600 million debt bubble looming over the industry, which could lead to a lot of retailers not making it through the second half of 2023. Retailers continue to buy inventory on credit, and they end up not paying distributors, putting the distros in a tough spot because they're left with the bill and no easy way to collect on whatever is owed. Well, the second half of 2023 is now weeks away, and things aren't any better than they were at the end of last year. So a group of operators have decided to take action. The Credit Management Association is a nonprofit based in suburban LA, and it has been hired by a group of Golden State operators and distributors and brands, to be exact, representing more than half the state's wholesale B2B market to rate retailers in what they're calling an effort to reduce hundreds of thousands of dollars in unpaid invoices. The CMA is currently analyzing accounts receivable and other important documents from more than a dozen distributors and brands, and say the next step is emailing each recipient designated for its red list of 25 retailers identified for repeated failure to pay bills on time. The red list highlights delinquent retailers and delivery services owing a minimum of $25,000 and are 90 days or more late on payments. Collectively, companies on that red list owe at least an estimated $625,000. When added to the companies not on the list, an easy estimate can be made pushing that number north of 1 million in total unpaid invoices. Retailers say that the issue, like others in cannabis, isn't as clear cut as it seems. Operators have struggled for years to turn a profit, and most don't set out to become bad actors. So, from what we're seeing, for the most part, is a vicious cycle of good intended people falling behind on payments and struggling to claw out of debt. Sounds a lot like non-cannabis America. The CMA's first report is expected to be released in a few weeks, and predictably, folks have mixed feelings about it. San Fran-based distribution giant Nabis distributes about $400 million in products annually, more than 20% of the entire wholesale market. Nabis also handles collections for brand customers for a fee that it says cover the cost of carrying out that task. Founder and co-CEO Vince Ning is spearheading the effort and said the goal of the group is to create a bit more stability and financial structure in the supply chain. Labeling companies in the current environment can prove to be tricky politically, putting a lot of brands between a rock and a hard place. The unpaid invoice problem's been prevalent for years, but dramatically spiked mid last year with the decline of industry stock prices and drying up of investment capital. The article notes social equity licenses and brands and Black and Latino-owned businesses being disproportionately hit harder than their peers, with most lacking capital reserves and resources. Everett Smith, co-founder and CEO of Presidential Cannabis, a member of the Credit Association and one of the top-selling blunt and pre-roll brands in California, spoke out about one client that he had in the Inland Empire that stopped answering calls after racking up $180,000 in unpaid invoices. Another client of his ordered $120,000 worth of product right before going out of business. The issue forced the Black-owned cannabis brand to change its policy to demand payment or close its doors. But setting a hard line actually hurt sales of Presidential, which had doubled and tripled revenue annually before last year's switch. Smith said Presidential had to stop selling to several bigger clients because they just weren't paying. Some of us brands have bent over backwards to have our product in those stores, do whatever the stores asked us to do, and then just string us along. Just doesn't seem right or fair. We don't have any investors. Every dollar counts. Gummy manufacturer Thunderstorm, they've turned to collection agencies as a last resort with varying success. And with most taking a 20% cut minimum, the move almost always equates to a business loss. The other remaining option for operators is taking offenders to small claims court. But small claims filings are limited to a $5,000 court maximum. So is it even worth it? For most, the answer is no. So folks like Thunderstorm allocate $30,000 a month toward bad debt reserves to cover the cost of uncollected receivables. While business credit reports and ratings have been common in mainstream industries, they're an emerging lane in cannabis. Fitch, one of the three New York-based global credit union agencies, started covering cannabis growth in 2021, along with Moody's and Standard & Poor's, S&P. The agencies assign letter grades to conglomerates, securities, government agencies, and even entire countries based on their ability to meet financial obligations. CMA is looking to become the gold standard to do just that in cannabis. The San Francisco Democrat Assembly member Phil Tings, the lead sponsor of Assembly Bill 766, which levies stiff penalties against operators skirting credit agreements. Whether or not AB 766 is passed is up in the air. Either way, the debt issue isn't getting any better anytime soon. And with mainstream America dealing with its own similar issues, the big picture ain't looking so pretty for California operators anytime in the near future. I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street. Like to hear from everybody else on this one. And the bills or not?
I don't think it's good.
Well, there's a lot here. Thank you, first of all, for grabbing this story. This is a really important topic to discuss in the industry because it is something that's running rampant here. And yep. I'm sure it's not just exclusive to California, but it is incredibly bad here. And I think it's just a cyclical issue, like the article was saying, that these are not really all bad actors. These are not people who own dispensaries that are trying to get one over on brands or take advantage of people. These are genuinely people who are like, okay, I'm kickstarting my business. I have had a 2-year-long runway before I could even start operations, which ate up all the money that I did raise to put my business together. And now I need inventory to get my store up off the ground. So I'm going to work out some kind of terms arrangement, and then I'm going to not have enough money to market properly. And so my product's not going to move as fast. And it's just like this whole shitstorm. I'm sorry, we're past 10 minutes. This whole storm of not so perfect elements that's creating an absolute nightmare for everybody. And also, it's really important to also understand the fact that because of how much it costs to distribute a product, that the distros have very small margins. Out of all of the lanes in California, they have the smallest margins. So them and the brands are constantly being asked to front this cash flow to help get the retailers moving. And it's just a really toxic circle. And at the same time, it's like the retailers, I truly believe, don't have bad intentions right out of the gate. It's just, you don't ever know what you're up against. And it's so impossible and scary sometimes.
I mean, this has been going on since Steve D'Angelo was ripping off my friends back in 2006. Not all of these dispensaries, but a majority of them have been operating like pawn shops since the 215 days, undercutting farmers on their product, requesting them on front, stringing them along and not paying them. So this isn't anything new. And honestly, even before the 215 game, this was happening back in the good old days. Like, people would ask me if I'd like front weed to go run around the corner. I'd be like, look, I got a master's degree from Don't Front Weed University, and the reason I say that is because that's how much money I spent on fronting weed to people before I figured it out. And I just say, I don't want a PhD, so like either give me some money or go somewhere else. And now in the legal game, we're just having to re-sift and redistill the entire playing field as to who pays their bills and who doesn't. So it's just going to be a painful process for us all.
You have a buddy who says that he doesn't like to front any weed because he likes the people that he deals with way too much.
It's a good way to go, man. People are just ain't listening to the 10 crack commandments. Goddamn credit.
I mean, I'm surprised that there's not like one of these like big conglomerate agencies coming in to buy all of this bad
debt.
Yeah, to buy all this bad debt, and get it off of people's balance sheets. So then that way these businesses can kind of almost get like a fresh start. And maybe there'd be a grant program from the state.
They're probably scared because a lot of those type of companies are governed by the SEC, and that's federal. Yeah. And so they'd be buying basically criminal cartel drug debt according to the federal government.
They could probably do it through a shell company like a lot of these big conglomerates were doing prior to 2017, 2018.
Yeah. They can do it. They can. I'm not. Yeah, they can totally do it. They just haven't yet.
Right.
I don't know. I don't see this problem going away anytime soon. It is definitely important to report any bad actors. I remember, I think it was last year, one of the distribution companies, one of the larger ones, I can't remember if it was Nabis or Herbal, I don't remember who, but they sent out basically their company's blacklist of dispensaries. And they basically said, if you're on this list, not only are we not serving you for any of the brands on our shelves, but we're also going to be sending you to collections. And right. I mean, this is the situation at hand. We have to pay our bills. And if for some weird reason you're in a position as a retail operator and you can't pay it in full, contact your distro and work out a payment plan. Don't just ignore them, right? They're business operators too. They tried to help you, so work with them.
Yeah. We are like I said, we're nearing the second half of the year, and certain people in the industry, turn off my damn lights, just turn on. Certain people in the industry, they called that out towards the end of last year. They said second half of 2023 is going to be a bloodbath because distros aren't getting paid, and motherfuckers going to come with that stick.
Well, and when you go to your retail store and you start to see that there's a shortage of supplies on the shelf, you can probably assume that that's one of those stores that's not paying their bills.
You wonder like how many of these retailers, the ones who are charging how many thousands of dollars a month for slotting fees.
Slotting fees and then still not paying. I can't get it.
Still not paying, right?
I can't get it at all.
Well, maybe they're slotting fees. They're just trading for product. But we got to go for a commercial. We're going to be right back.
Oh, yeah. You know
know what time it is. That's right. It's Tuesday over here at Green Street, and we got Smoky Vanilla with us in the building. So that's right. It is time to stretch and smoke. We just got done smoking. Now we're going to stretch it out, and then we're going to smoke again.
Let's go. I'm Smoky Vanilla with my background in kinesiology and bodywork massage and assisted stretching. You got to come check it out, baby. Check me out on IG. It's Smoky Vanilla 1, Stretch and Smoke. Twitter, Smoky Vanilla. Social Club, Stretch and Smoke. We're also on Sports Recovery by Dan and Jam.
If you want to feel as good as I look, then make sure that you get a stretch and smoke in with Smoky Vanilla.
Yay!
Yay!
You know, before we jump, can I just say, I want to just read one of the comments that Nick Bradley put in the side here, which I don't disagree with, and that is that the state should just eliminate the middleman here. The distro doesn't need to exist. Almost every single brand has its own distro license and is fully capable of transporting and fulfilling its own orders. It's a silly, silly thing that we have to go through a distro, in my opinion.
That's a hot take of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of distros out there wouldn't like that. But you know what? When he's not getting stretched out by Smoky Vanilla, he's not up north judging the finest weed in all of the land, you can catch High at Nine's head honcho here with us. This is Monday morning. I can't wait to hear what he has to say. You know who it is. Jason Beck. What do you got for us today, my man?
Oh, man, I hope everybody had a great time at the Emerald Cup, and congratulations to all the winners, all that fire weed that took home some awards. Oh, yeah, but guess what? So this is something that I've been talking to people about for a number of years, and I've done a number of social media posts over the years encouraging this. When I actually walk through this place, and Gretchen, it's right in your backyard, because a congresswoman wants marijuana plants displayed at the U.S. Botanic Garden. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Ellen Holmes Norton, Democrat who represents Washington, D.C. in the House of Representatives, wants marijuana plants to be featured in the U.S. Botanic Garden. In a quote, as this country moves towards legalizing cannabis, I asked the Botanic Garden to display marijuana plants for the first time, especially given its impact on the economy, Norton said in a tweet. She added that this ask follows an earlier request for the garden to display hemp, which she's pleased it now does. Aren't they both the same thing, though? In a letter to the Botanic Gardens executive director, Susan Pell, Norton noted that the House has passed a number of bills in recent years that would have legalized the drug. In a quote, as individual states and the country as a whole are moving toward the legalization of marijuana, having a display with male and female marijuana plants would be a historic opportunity to highlight the impact of marijuana on American society and especially the American economy, Norton said in a press release about the letter. Adult use cannabis is now legalized in nearly half of the U.S. states and in D.C. Voters in Maryland and Missouri approved adult use cannabis during last year's midterms, while voters in Arkansas, North Dakota, and South Dakota shot the move down. In the letter to the Botanic Garden, Norton also requested a response in writing by May 24th. So we'll see if she's going to get that back. But I'll tell you what, I have been all about having cannabis in the botanical garden, and I'm not sure about having male plants in the botanical garden. I think they should just have female plants. But I'm going to digress and see what you guys have to say about having all these plants with all these other plants and what kind of bugs are going to spew in there, you guys. Is this going to be a pesticide nightmare? What do y'all think? This is Jason Beck for High at 9 News.
I think this is very interesting. I mean, I would love to see it.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard of. And if Dale were here, Dale would say this is exactly what the botanical gardens are going to tell her to do. Go piss up a rope. They do not care. They are never going to do this. And why? Eleanor Holmes Norton can't even vote. Screw her. They don't care. Not happening. It's just going to be an acknowledgement of the federal government's support of cannabis. which they will not do. Next.
If anything, at best, it would be a hemp plant, right? It's not going to be a full THC
hemp plant's already in there.
Say it again. one more time, Gretchen.
This is what we waste our taxpayer dollars and time on. Bullshit. Dumb bullshit.
I think it'd be amazing to have retail.
I think it would be cool to see. I think it'd be cool to see.
You want to go see some hemp? Just go down the river to Mount Vernon. They do grow hemp at George Washington's plantation. You can go see it there if you want to go see it. It's not that far away.
George Washington.
I feel like it's appropriate, seeing as how it's going to be one of the largest cash-producing crops in the globe.
Dumb.
It seems kind of dumb not to do it.
Once again, dumb.
And used to host the seed exchange on his property annually back there at Mount Vernon. You know that, Gretchen? Did you ever go?
I am a member of the Ladies Women's Society of Mount Vernon, and I happily support their growing of hemp. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but I can tell you that what they're trying to get done at the Botanical Gardens is dumb.
Are the people who grow the hemp on that property, are they still of color?
No. They are rich white ladies who like to volunteer their time.
You're identifying as a rich white
ladies. No, I don't volunteer my time. I ain't got time for that. I'm not a lady that lunches. I wish. That's the dream. Come on. One day, a lady that lunches. That's my goal.
That's the goal.
A lady that lunches. Is there a definition to that? Like, is that it? The lady lunches.
A lady that lunches.
Got it.
No work. You just lunch.
You just go and hang out with your girlfriend, sip tea with your
spend your man's money.
About whatever.
I'll spend anybody's money. Let's do
it. Yeah.
For all you trolls out there who are looking for a little sugar baby, here I am. I would like to be a lady that lunches.
Yeah. Looking for a sponsor, everybody.
Lady of the lunch.
I'd go see the plants at the Botanical. I'd go check it out.
You would check that out, Chris?
Yeah.
Why not?
I just wonder, like, would they have, if they had plants in there, would they have them flowering out? You know what I mean?
No,
like,
they couldn't.
Leave them in a vegetative state their entire time. And like, because there's a life cycle to these plants. Like, you can't just like leave them in veg forever.
No, they'd have to constantly be rotating them out.
So that means they'd have to have a separate nursery to supply all the plants for the botanical garden. But
get you a lady that lunches and a man that munches.
I do agree with you. I do not think that this is realistic with the federal government stance on cannabis currently. We would have to have legalization before this could happen. But I do not think it's a dumb idea. I think this is a revolutionary idea.
This is not revolutionary. She's done this like every year. She says, give me a hemp plant or a cannabis plant. And every year they tell her she's dumb. Go piss up a rope. This is not new.
The first time we've covered it here at High at 9 News.
Oh, well, fantastic.
I like Ingrid call it lunch and munch.
Dumb. I love it, Ingrid.
Gretchen, what do you think about the cannabis college in Amsterdam displaying plants in different stages of cultivation? Somebody, Nick, in our comments put that in there. Thanks, Nick. What do you think about that, though, Gretchen?
They can do it. I don't care. Doesn't bother me at all. Crazy Dutch. They do whatever they want.
Gretchen is spicy this morning. I love it.
Yeah, thank God.
I wasn't even trying to fuel. I was literally just wanted to know what Gretchen thought about that comment. That was it. I didn't mean anything by it.
A little friendly fire.
I'm going back on mute.
Stop it.
My point behind the whole thing being dumb is, number one, we know what the answer is. Number two, why are you wasting your time? Actually do something in Congress. Come on.
Beating the drum. Well, it's
first to that.
Oh, she can't do anything in Congress.
Well, in a way, all of this is steps towards getting people to acknowledge this plant's existence and importance.
How many people do you think are going to acknowledge cannabis's existence by the 3 tourists who go to the National Botanical Gardens?
Every bit of education is helpful.
Dumb.
It sounds like Gretchen is on a anti-inclusion tirade this morning.
She only likes flowers. She doesn't like plants.
Next.
Dumb.
Coming up next, that's right. She's not so dumb, but she is the feisty, redheaded conservative that loves to tell Rico all about himself and always notate when the backpedaling is going on. That's right. She loves to dress her dogs up in fancy outfits that PETA would probably take her pets for. But nonetheless, she's the founder of Panoptic Strategies and our very own little Washington insider. That's right. Coming up next is none other than the Gretchen Gailey.
Good afternoon. Well, my headline, I must be hungry today because my headline is Queen Village Pizzeria that adds cannabis to pies is shut down. So there will be no ladies at lunching in this place. Philadelphia authorities say they have shut down a Queen Village pizzeria that puts cannabis in its food and beverages. A joint inspection conducted by the city's licenses and inspections and health departments on Friday found that Stoned Pizzeria, a New York City-based pizza chain that opened a location earlier in May at 5th and Bainbridge Streets, lacked a business license and health certificate. 3 uniformed police officers accompanied inspectors as they examined the business, which is guarded by a security guard. Stone was attempting to fulfill to-go orders while the inspection occurred, including one that had a pre-rolled joint, per an Inquirer reporter at the scene. The restaurant was instructed to cease operations at 6:35 p.m. on Friday, but General Manager Luke Weatherhold offered conflicting information about the entity that had taken over the former location of adjoining restaurants Ollie and Gigi. First, Weatherhold claimed that the business wasn't a restaurant at all, but a fully operational event space called South Street Events. Then he claimed nothing was operating at all. We haven't opened yet, so how can we get shut down? Weatherhold told inspectors that South Street Events was owned by Chris Barrett, the same man who launched Stone Pizza in 2017. Barrett, who goes by the nickname Pizza Pusha online, operates 3 Stone locations in Manhattan and Brooklyn, apparently with little pushback. New York legalized marijuana in 2021, but dispensaries and other cannabis concepts have been slowed to open. Beleaguered by licensing issues and high startup costs, the sale and possession of marijuana is still illegal in Pennsylvania, but was decriminalized in Philadelphia in 2014, meaning that small amounts of weed will not result in a criminal offense. Barrett could not be immediately reached for comment. It was not clear Friday what steps the restaurant could attempt to reopen. Word had spread through the Queen Village over the last few weeks about the business, which operates behind thick gray curtains. Kate Allen, president of the Queen Village Neighborhood Association, said she learned about Stoned in a whisper down the lane manner from neighbors who had walked past the storefront, confused about the activity coming from what they assumed was a set of closed restaurants. Stone's Philadelphia location, like its other, operates like a speakeasy. There's no sign outside, and customers are texted the address after paying for reservations by using the app. Inside the pizzeria is decorated with an Instagrammable neon sign that reads, "Either light up or leave me alone." A mural of drawn hearts and the restaurant's named capped by a SEPTA logo and wooden tables lit with candles. The soundtrack thumps with decades-old Eminem, Tupac, Jay-Z, and 50 Cent. Allen said her concerns with the restaurant are twofold. The flouting of the rules is what really concerns me, but I also want to encourage bars and restaurants that attract residents, not tourists. Residents are not attracted to cannabis businesses. Allen said she contacted the South Street Head House District and various city officials, including District 1 Council member Mark Sakia, to elevate her concerns about Stoned. Together, she said, the Queen Village Neighborhood Association, the Head House District, the Society Hill Neighborhood Association, and Bella Vista Neighborhood Association have asked for a change to South Street's zoning overlay that would ban smoking lounges such as cigar bars, hookah bars, and presumably pop pizza shops from opening. A hearing on the ban is set for next week. Based on its social media and a visit by an Inquirer reporter, Stoned offered the same experience in Philadelphia as it does in New York, a fixed-price meal at $120 a person that includes pizza, salad, lollipop chicken, garlic knots, cannoli, sorbet, and sodas, all of which they get an additional of oils containing THC, the mind-altering ingredient in cannabis. All guests must be 21 or over, per Stone's website, which also advertises that a variety of edibles, concentrates, and flour are available for purchase upon arrival, including fruit chews and a $150 cigar-sized spliff called the Godfather. Waiters can describe the amount of THC in each item, which ranges from 25 milligrams in a garlic knot to 40 milligrams in each slice of thick-crusted rectangular pizza. Customers may eat and drink all they want in their 2.5-hour stay, but can't take out leftovers. Barrett, the owner and Pizza Pusha, wrote on his website that he experienced a light bulb moment during a cannabis dinner in California in 2015. In 2016, he threw his first cannabis dinner at a townhouse and offered guests a late-night snack of cannabis-infused pizza. Since then, Barrett has claimed his pizza parties and restaurants have never been shut down by law enforcement, even when they were operating illegally. I've never been hiding. They're going to get me for the pizza. I like this story. I just think it's stupid. Another dumb story. Why not? But I think this guy should put all his efforts into his New York efforts. He's just looking to get shut down in Philadelphia. I don't know what he was thinking there. But trust me, the Society Hill group is not going to have this in their neighborhood. Trust me. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
I'm just shocked that there's actually enforcement on anything going on in Philadelphia from all the news reports I've seen.
Philadelphia.
Well, if Society Hill's getting behind it, if for those unfamiliar with Philadelphia, they are pretty hoity-toity, and if they're bitching, you're going to get shut down.
They're bitching, somebody's snitching.
What this guy needs to do is...
Well, I want to go to this
Rico.
place. I want to visit Stoned.
Well, you can go to 3 chains in New York, Manndie. They're available.
These kind of places should be allowed to exist. They really ought to. Or dispensaries ought to be allowed to create this sort of product inside their store.
See, I don't think these places should be existing like this. I think this is deeming to the health department standards and a whole bunch of different health violations. And I mean, but you know where he could operate at that he would totally be under the radar and able to operate is in Washington, D.C., right in your backyard. He could hide under the I-71 auspice.
He wouldn't be.
I don't know.
More.
If you can get away with that. But he didn't. If you paid attention, at the beginning of the story, they shut him down because of he didn't have a business license or a health certificate. They didn't shut him down for pot.
No, they actually did. In another article, it read that they actually did shut him down for pot because they went in there and they found a jar. There was another article that I read that was about the story. I read it on Sunday, and it referenced that they found a jar of distillate, and that's when they moved to close him down. And then
man doesn't have a health license or a health certificate. I think you're getting shut down.
I agree with that.
No matter what city you're in.
Again, my point, they're not shutting down anyone for doing any kind of crime in Philadelphia right now. So why are they bothering this guy?
Why?
Because Society Hill called him. What do you mean?
Well, Society Hill needs to be calling on people that are committing real crime because they got real crime out there.
Well,
Rico said that they were snitching, but I think clearly, Rico, somebody was whispering down the lane. Okay.
They were whispering down the lane. I like that.
The whispering eye.
That sounds a lot like snitching.
Well, I'm going to be in New York in a couple weeks for CWCB Expo, so I'm going to find the Stone Pizza and I will report back. Even though I don't consume, we'll see what happens.
I wonder if they have a basement in that pizzeria.
Stop it, Rico. Stop it. We're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back. Thank you for that, Gretchen. Lovely pizza.
I'm hungry.
Keeping up to date on the evolving policies of relevant state, local, and federal governments is key to success. When the future of your business is at stake, you need representation as dedicated as you are. With a maze of laws and regulations surrounding cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, knowing where to begin can be a challenge. Good thing the law offices of Omar Figueroa features a skilled, highly focused team ready to guide you through it all. They're accepting new clients in California and New York. So make sure you check them out at info@omarfigueroa.com.
Oh, yes. Thank you all for tuning in and enjoying High at 9 News with all of us. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And make sure you head over to our website, www.highat9news.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to our newsletter. You will also get an email in your inbox confirming your subscription that you must hit. And oftentimes it does go in your spam or your junk mail. So make sure that you are aware of that. Also, too, if you want us to really pay attention to your comments, make sure you make them a super chat, and we will make sure that we really pay attention to you. Literally pay attention to you. Thank you. Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
Oh, yeah. He's an immortal cannabis wizard with a PhD in tripping balls and co-host of the only podcast legally cleared to tell you exactly what's good. Come to the stage next, Mathieu St. Germain.
Thank you, Brother Rico, and happy Monday, everybody. I've got some more promising psychedelic news. I've really been diving into the psychedelic news because it's such a deep and fruitful well right now. Ohio State University receives DEA license to grow psychedelic mushrooms for research. Bam! Ohio State University is about to grow psychedelic mushrooms. Ohio State, alongside the mental health and wellness research and development company Interstate Incorporated, was awarded the first ever license by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency to an American university to grow whole psilocybin mushrooms. Normally they use an extract or a synthetic version of the molecule. The mushrooms will be used in the study of mental health treatment capabilities with naturally grown psychedelic mushrooms. This license is a major milestone not only for Interstate and Ohio State, but for the entire field of psychedelic research. Interstate CEO Ashley Walsh said Wednesday in a news release. The license allows Ohio State and Interstate to cultivate psilocybin mushrooms for research purposes only. All research will be conducted in a federally sanctioned and secured grow house in accordance with strict DEA regulations and guidelines. By combining cutting-edge techniques in genomics and metabolomics, we have the opportunity to obtain a high-resolution picture of the chemical diversity of mushrooms that have remained difficult to study for several decades. Due to its classification as a Schedule I drug, research into whole psilocybin mushrooms has been heavily restricted in the U.S. There is a growing movement, however, to research the potential that whole mushrooms have on improving mental health. Oregon voted to become the first state to allow adult use of these mushrooms in 2020, though they officially became legal for use this January. Research suggests that psilocybin, the main active ingredient, usually taken in pill form, has a potential to treat a variety of mental health issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and addiction. One potential of these mushrooms is that it contains psilocybin and other compounds that may have additional therapeutic benefits. Walsh said it's possible that psilocybin mushrooms have multidimensional healing properties that could further improve quality of life for those with severe illness and mental health issues. Now, this is really exciting because not only are they growing these mushrooms, and we can dive into that, but this type of an approach shows promise for whole cannabis plant extracts as well as ayahuasca and iboga as medicine because they're allowing and starting to understand that there's a fuller amount of benefits. Last thing with mushrooms, this is great because you have terpenes and all of the different alkaloids and all of these other substances, but you also have polysaccharides, and polysaccharides are incredibly complex sugar molecules, and they help us to heal from cancers. They upregulate our immune system. They do super amazing stuff. The main immunoboosting chemical they give chemotherapy patients is called Crestin with a K, and it's polysaccharide K, and it was first discovered in shiitake mushrooms. I'm Mathieu St. Germain for the High at 9 News on a Monday. Take it away, guys.
Down in Ohio, swag like Ohio.
Oh boy, Ohio. The Buckeye State is now specializing in mushrooms, huh? Man.
Yes.
I think this is a great thing, and I think more universities need to be following suit. I mean, before in the early what?
The only thing is great because it's a university doing it.
Yes, I do. Why shouldn't our institutions of higher education be embracing these?
The Ohio State University?
Oh, good Lord.
I think it's Michigan's move now. You know, Michigan has to.
Well, whatever. I went to
the state to the north. You meant the state to the north?
Yes.
I'm so confused.
And football jokes, Gretchen. Football jokes.
I was in the Big Ten. I went to Penn State, and I don't know what the hell y'all are referring to.
Yeah, because your mascot is a Nittany.
There's
lion,
nothing wrong with a Nittany lion. What's Northwestern's? What are y'all?
The Wildcats.
Nothing.
So it's Chico State, Rico. We have more in common. We have even more in common now.
Come on, man. My brother to the now.
Personally,
All right.
I'm
I'm
very
sorry, Mandy.
excited
I
about
just want to
this.
actually. All right, go for it.
No, I was just saying,
gonna say,
I'm really excited about the fact that we could see these universities getting the opportunity to do research for us. I mean, we have so much to learn, so much to learn. We don't have time to waste. So the more that we can get on board with doing research on all of these different plants, the better.
Yeah.
And it just really opens up again the biggest difficulty with universities has been the federal illegality and the difficulty in getting federal okay and funding. So this is really like a gateway to opening up a lot more studies in universities. And the thing that's cool about universities is university-funded studies lead to peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed journals lead to altering scientific consensus. Once scientific consensus is altered that these substances are as they are, which is non-toxic and amazingly beneficial to humans, then that paves the way for FDA approval. And for instance, MDMA, the active ingredient in the drug called ecstasy, is in phase 3 FDA trials. It's about to pass phase 3 FDA trials, and then we'll be on track for being rescheduled to at least Schedule 2 and prescription legal for therapists to prescribe for talk therapy.
Which will all be made by a pharmaceutical industry.
It will, and here's the thing: like if you're eating mushrooms that you're picking, or you're growing weed that's grown outside, you can be fairly safe. But the moment you're taking a powdered drug, a crystalline drug, unless you know the chemist, you're risking fentanyl overdose. Yep. You're risking garbage psychedelics. You're risking cancer-causing admixtures. Oftentimes with psychedelics, there's a clean way to start with clean source chemicals and get to the psychedelic you want. There's also a way to start with cheaper admixtures and different substitute chemicals and get something very close to what you want for far less money that most people don't have chromatography or other ways to understand that it's not the same thing or chemically pure. And so you could be buying something that has cancerous garbage psychedelic admixtures in it. And so when it comes to any type of synthetic drug, it's far better that there's government controls and their pharmaceutical companies are making it, in my opinion.
And either way, what I was trying to say before y'all went down the ridiculous football track, whatever that bullshit was, is this legitimizes. This is what we need. I mean, this is what lawmakers will look to. They believe Ohio State. They believe Johns Hopkins. They believe these universities are doing things. And instead of us just putting out our own studies, which we have many wonderful, valid researchers in this space, but I guarantee you, when you put a accredited university next to their research and what they're doing, and these folks partner up, that's when they're taken seriously. And so we need more of this.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And Gretchen, do you think that would carve, or at least carve out a more significant path for folks within the industry to conduct tests and have those be accepted under the same circumstances generally?
Sure. 100%.
I also agree.
Oh, interesting. Look at that. You two agree. How cute.
Eat mushrooms, you guys. Everybody.
I'm going back
Eat
on
mushrooms.
You feel left out, Jason. Because nobody's agreeing with you.
Cops and conservatives agreeing on mushrooms.
I wasn't going to bet on it. I was not going to bet on it.
Oh boy, we're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back. Thank you for that, Matthew.
Yes.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Oh yeah, coming up next, that's right, is the former narcotics detective that decided to retire to come into the cannabis space to help us all be more secure and protect ourselves from the rabid street thugs that he knows is out there patrolling our streets as well. That's right. He's the founder of CCC Security Solutions, and he's here to create a safer space for you. That's right. It is Chris Eggers.
Jason, thank you. Happy Monday. Happy belated Mother's Day to the mothers out there. We appreciate every single one of you. Jason, I didn't retire. I quit. Big difference, but that's okay.
That's the same thing. Same thing.
Okay.
Get him, Chris.
I'm sorry. I don't know what doing. I'm off mute. Okay, so my article comes out of the Iowa Gazette. State fines Iowa Cannabis Co. for delays in making medical marijuana products. Out of Iowa City. So Iowa regulators have fined Iowa Cannabis Co. $1,000 for failing to meet a second deadline for producing and delivering medical marijuana products. A new timeline submitted by the company says it'll have harvest its first crop of for an Iowa City production facility in December and have products ready to sell by January. And that's where they left off. And now a little bit more about this company's licensed to manufacture medical cannabis products in Iowa was first approved to develop a facility in Cedar Rapids, but got state permission in 2021 to move to Iowa City. Now, the Iowa Department of Health and Human Services granted an extension to June 1, 2022 for the firm to deliver its products to Iowa's 5 dispensaries. Iowa Cannabis has dispensaries in Waterloo, Council Bluffs, and Iowa City. 2 other state licensed dispensaries in Sioux City and Windsor Heights are also owned by a different company out of Des Moines, and they're going to talk about them in just a second. But the owners of this, the company would spend about $10 million to adopt 120,000 square foot former ACT warehouse in Iowa City into a facility where employees would grow marijuana plants and process them into products for Iowa's medical, according to the article, I want to say this, medical pot program. The company is leasing the warehouse currently. So what's happened since? Well, the owner said that last year, Iowa Cannabis Co. would have ready in the first quarter of 2023, but when the Health and Human Services staff made a scheduled visit to the plant on November 7th, it was clear that the company wasn't going to meet that deadline. Now, Services Deputy Director Sarah Reisetter said, quote, on this visit, the department discovered that none of the milestones contained on May 2022 requested had been completed or delivered. And so the fine came down $1,000. Now, the Gazette reached out to the owners to explain why the production has been delayed, but they did not request a comment or return a call for an interview. Buds and Mary, the state's other licensed manufacturer, recently completed a $10 million expansion to their Des Moines manufacturing site. Production fold and create at least 20 new. So this company also had a contract with the state and didn't miss any deadlines, so they didn't get fined. Just the one company did. The headline is what stuck out to me, so I wanted to share it today. Happy Monday, everybody. Thanks for letting me share. Curious what you guys have to say. Is this a trend? Is this only going to land in certain states? And how did this come to be? My name's Chris Evers. Thanks for letting me contribute today.
I mean, it's not uncommon for states to have, you have to be operational by this point. I mean, even West Hollywood with their licenses gives operators to say that you have X number of days for you to activate your license and actually be operational, because they don't want these licenses just to remain dormant and people just sit on them in hopes of some big financial payout and not having to actually do any of the work.
Yeah, there's a long list of people waiting to get a hold of a license, and they're just waiting to see if somebody doesn't actually activate theirs. This is very common.
What do we think about the fine?
Yeah, I was about to ask, how much was their fine, Chris? Do we know?
$1,000.
$1,000? That's peanut.
That's nothing.
That's
They should be made to actually turn it back in after a certain amount of time, because like I said, there's plenty of people out there that are ready with money and ready to go.
$1,000 fine is so mediocre. But I will say this: if you are a struggling business and just startup, $1,000 definitely can be a lot of money to a new struggling business. So I do want to be somewhat sensitive if this business is having some financial situations as part of the reason for their. I'm not quite sure on that.
A twite
like that. White.
Torn up right now, man. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
All right.
White.
Well, obviously you don't feel some sort of way, so whatever. You can feel like that later after you figure it out.
I don't have many feelings, dude. I don't have many feelings. Numb.
I bet. What do you think about this, Gretchen? You think $1,000 fine is appropriate for not producing weed?
No.
You with us,
Don't
Gretchen?
know. I'm
Hi,
here.
everybody.
I'm thinking
Nothing
about
yet.
it.
You're thinking about it. You're
I'm
contemplating.
assessing it.
You're assessing it.
You just like they're like license squatting.
I mean, I just know Iowa, like they need money. They're a small state, so I just think their fines should be higher.
I think it should be higher if they're not doing anything. If they're actively building and taking significant steps towards opening, like I think it could be a case by case basis. I mean, we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of licenses out there, but if you're doing much and it's been 2 years and you're significantly, far from the finish line, I don't know.
Manndie, there's
I
only
mean,
a
shouldn't they be able to just shut people down and take back the license if they're not doing the work?
Well,
Yes.
yes and no, because think about it. If you are a license holder and your business has had issues with, like during COVID, for example, when there was
Sure.
all kinds of issues getting supplies through the supply
Yeah, but let's
chain.
not talk about a pandemic. Let's talk about real life. I mean,
Right.
if it says you get a license, and like Jason said, a number of states have these provisions, be up and running in 18 months or whatever, and you don't do it, why don't they have the right to take back the license instead of just
Like
fining
I
them?
said, I think that there should be something in there that would actually state that, but at the same time, each situation should also be looked at on its own merit because there's different dynamics that you may or may not be privy to. Maybe there's a building that has some really hardcore, unexpected improvements that they have to do before they can open.
I don't buy it because
These are not-
this is what keeps
Sorry,
markets from
but it
getting
does.
up and running.
It's reality. This is happening.
Yeah.
It's happening
100%.
Yep.
That 100% happens all of a sudden.
all the time, especially when you're buying historic buildings or leasing space in historic buildings.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest things I've seen is the cannabis side of the licensing is ready to move, but the civil side, the CPU, the conditional use permit, and
Sure.
all those permits that come from the normal process, those are staggered out by months, and it's like where we're building a cultivation, we needed to make a firewall, and it's a layer of drywall, fire drywall going one direction, then we stucco it, then a layer going the other direction, then we stucco it, and it's about 5 layers on each side because it's a really thick cement wall. You put up one layer of drywall, well, you put up the frame, the guy comes, that takes 2 weeks. You put up one layer of drywall, the guy comes, that takes like a week to 3 weeks. You put up the next layer of drywall, and it's like that for each part of this process. And while I understand it's why our buildings don't collapse on us and kill us like they do in other countries when there's earthquakes and stuff, at the same time, it strings out this process to where you think, my friends thought they were going to have their licenses in February, and here we are in May, and it looks like we're going to have our licensure in July.
I get it. I get building delays and yada yada and all that jazz. I mean, look at New York. All these people, they've granted how many licenses, and these folks are going nowhere because Dasme
But they're
sucks,
going
and they didn't
nowhere on
get-
paper. But if you visit them, they might be actively
No.
building out.
I'm referring to a number of these folks who were, especially the social equity applicants, who were waiting on a particular fund, or like in LA years ago when they all were issued licenses and had to wait 3 more years because the state sucked. I get that. I understand that. But if you are showing no activity, no movement,
Agreed.
no progress,
Yeah.
take it away.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
If you're
saying.
just camping
now.
on it,
should
dude,
be a
it-
case by
Exactly.
case.
But if it's like I want to be in this specific wonderful
be a
location and I
case-by-case
can't get in there
basis.
for 2 years, well, move on, find a new location.
Find a new location. I'm with you, Gretchen. Or at
I'm
least
just
find
saying
something for that 2 years operate. Because there's not a lot of licenses that are given out in this place. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You ready, Rico? We're gonna move to the next story.
Let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
I love the back and forth today, man. It's just like very, very lively, if you ask me. That's why we do what we do. But coming up next, y'all know who it is. It is the woman also known as Carmen Sacramento, where she travels the globe looking for the industry's greatest edibles above and underground. And she is well known for teaching everybody that, motherhood and cannabis, executive viewership go well together. Y'all know who it is, Manndie Tingler. What's up, Manndie? Welcome back.
You're on mute, Manndie.
Sorry about that. I had dogs barking in the background, so I had to mute for a moment. But
Ongoing
as
themes
you guys
today.
know, today's news and lots of stories preceding it we've been hearing a lot about fentanyl. And as you know, it's been wreaking havoc in states all over the US. I'm actually going to be combining two stories today. The first one is actually from Fox 2 News out of St. Louis. The headline reads, "Local doctor seeing cases of teens consuming marijuana laced with fentanyl." It says, with recreational marijuana for people 21 years of age and older now legal in Missouri, problems are surfacing. Doctors are seeing cases of marijuana being mixed with fentanyl. Dr. Michael Wenzinger, a staff psychiatrist at Washington University School of Medicine, has seen a few cases where teenagers have inadvertently consumed the combination. He doesn't want to alarm people about this, but says parents need to have it on their radar. Wenzinger says among his practice and his peers, he's seeing more kids who thought they were just smoking marijuana when drug screens showed fentanyl. The marijuana fentanyl mixture cases are very recent. Overall, marijuana use is up amongst teens. Doctors say the general feeling is that since it's sold in dispensaries, it's safe to consume, but those people are not taking into consideration what others are doing with the drug after being it bought from legal businesses. In other articles from Fox News, there is a headline that also reads, "The most hippie town in Washington bans drugs after spike in overdoses." This town, once deemed the most hippie town in Washington, recently outlawed drug use after a spike in fentanyl overdoses that included a death of a 5-year-old girl. Edwin Williams, a city council member in Bellingham, Washington, said overdoses became so commonplace in his city that one dead body was left on a bench for over 12 hours. Says a man was sitting on a curb in a parking lot with his head bowed down right out in the open, and a police officer told me that he had been dead for 12 hours, Williams told the New York Post in a report on Bellingham published Sunday. "It shocked me to my core. The Bellingham City Council voted in April to make open drug use an arrestable crime, a decision that came 2 years after the Washington legislature decriminalized hard drugs in response to a decision at the state's Supreme Court. The reversal from the leaders came after a 5-year-old overdosed on fentanyl in March, as well as 2 teenagers. The Bellingham Fire Department said it responded to more than 2 overdoses per day from January to April 12th, a rate nearly double that of the year prior, according to the Cascadia Daily. But at this point, the combination of COVID, the pervasiveness of fentanyl, and the state law being changed pushed everything to the limit, Williams continued. It was just the perfect storm, and at some point, something had to be done. In 2018, the local media boasted that Bellingham in particular was named by the site only in your state as the most hippie town in Washington. Since then, however, casualties from drug use have spiked. You guys, as you know, fentanyl has been in the news. It's been everywhere. We've talked about it numerous times on this show in particular. But I was really intrigued about the commonalities that are going across the states and the different laws that are being changed, and the way that certain municipalities are instantly entertaining regulation change. And when I looked at the initial that fentanyl was being added to cannabis after it leaves a dispensary, it caused me a lot of concern, and I wanted to bring it up on today's show. So this is Manndie. It's Monday morning, High at 9 News. Let's talk about this fentanyl and weed issue one more time.
I'm calling total BS on this again. Total BS. You have a bunch of kids, a doctor. First of all, the doctor didn't call the cops on any of these kids because he's not saying that he had them arrested afterwards. So therefore, what's ended up happening is these kids are taking some test and maybe testing positive for both of them when they're getting their blood drawn or whatnot, but they're only admitting to smoking weed and not doing anything else. That's all this really is. This is just ridiculous and bad speculation, and shame on this doctor for perpetuating reefer madness.
Word. Shame.
I don't.
Come on, Gretchen.
Why do
Come
we refuse to believe this is happening? I'm
Dumb.
asking. Why?
Dumb. Not you. This story.
I get it. Wait, that's my question. Why do we refuse to believe that this is a possibility?
Because it's ridiculous.
Why?
Okay. It's not how you do fentanyl. First of all,
That's
Well,
not how you do it.
Look,
either way, so good old
Jay, you watch
Senator.
the fentanyl again, bro.
And I'm not saying that she is the authority or the most informed whatsoever, but Senator Murkowski brought this up with the FBI director in a recent hearing on the Hill, suggesting that fentanyl and cannabis are going hand in hand together up in Alaska, and it's a major problem for them. Do you think she is completely making this up?
No, I don't.
No clue what she's doing.
She actually has no clue on this, and she's getting bad intel from someone, probably someone like a Kevin Sabet type of individual who is a total prohibitionist. And
I don't think a senator makes that kind of allegation without anything from law enforcement backing that up.
Oh, come on. Come on.
100%. Trust me, lawmakers.
I've heard senators say cannabis kills babies. Come on, Gretchen.
I'm sorry. No. Lawmakers are not the quickest. I will give you that. However, when they make claims about a crime, they have it backed up by law enforcement. They're not hearing it from a lobbyist telling them, this is a crime that's happening.
From some lobbyists.
I'm saying they're backing. All right. I actually speak to lobbyists, and lawmakers. I know how this works. Now I know how y'all love how the police. You say they make their shit up too. That's
they do.
Fine.
We've covered 3 or 4 stories where the police have made it up, and they've.
I am saying is that this woman, I guarantee you, is taking that information from law enforcement, not from just some Kevin Sabet showing up in her office. That's all I'm saying.
I'm telling you.
Is law enforcement? I would love to ask the former law enforcement officer here if he has ever come across this sort of thing. Fentanyl and cannabis.
I agree.
Was that ever an issue?
In specifically in cannabis, I would say, yeah, we've talked about this a couple times, that law enforcement data is skewed. I think is probably.
Yeah, isn't it ironic that you and I talk in the same language? The people who actually talk to these people. Skewed. I know that word.
They're skewed. That means it's not true. It's fabricated. They pile on, and one thing law enforcement is really good at is skewing the data in a way that fits the narrative.
Exactly. Fit in the narrative. Exactly like
fit that narrative.
This is total fake news propaganda, and we need to be letting our lawmakers know that this is total BS, because you don't do fentanyl like that.
Okay, well, I would love for you to go and tell lawmakers that's not how you do drugs. This is how you do drugs. That's really going to help our argument.
I mean, it's true.
It would be like in Maryland, you can just like smoking dope in front of the cops. That's how America should be. Yeah. But you know what? Thank you all out there for tuning in with us for a very spicy Monday edition here. Another episode of High 9 News. You can always catch us weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our super fans showing love and getting their thoughts and comments projected out there on the big screen. Our live audience members, online supporters across all platforms tuning in and giving us feedback on the daily headlines of chaos. Our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and your respective opinions to the conversation. To our production team, Cloud Media Partners, House of Fuego, and the wonderful Jaja Simone holding things down over in Clubhouse. And you know what? We're pretty good today for the most part. And nothing but love going out to the haters. You know what? Put your money in, get your shit up on the big screen. I'd love to see it. And always, Cannabis Sativa L, the reason why we show up every single day. We love you, Mary Mama. Happy Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there and the mother plants too. It is Monday, May 15th, 2023. The show is over, and you've been blessed with the top industry headlines. Hope it was enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until tomorrow. Y'all know who it is. Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street, signing off. And remember, when life gives you no place else to turn, you can always turn up. Mathieu St. Germain, like to hear from you, man. What we got for today, man?
Same thing as always, man. Change your breath, change your life. I love everybody out there. Thank you.
Colgate strips.